Hello, Bengal fans, and welcome once again to another episode of Bengals in Paradise. I am your host, Chasten Scott, and in today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down the 6 picks that the Bengals selected in this year's draft. I'll also be talking about who's my favorite pick for the Bengals in this draft, and last, I'll be discussing with you guys what future moves could be on the horizon for this team and what moves would make sense to me in my honest opinion. But before I get into all that, can you guys please give this video a thumbs up, and if you guys like my content, please subscribe to my YouTube channel at Bengals in Paradise. Thank you to everybody. And if you guys have other social media platforms, that's where I do most of my social media content. On X, you guys can follow me at SinCity808, and I just started an Instagram page. You guys can follow me there too at SinCity_808. Thank you again. Appreciate you guys. Now let's dive into today's episode. So, just some quick thoughts about this year's draft when it comes to the Bengals. To be honest, I was a bit surprised that there was no trades when it came to this team. I thought, the very least, Friday, day 2, I thought we were gonna see a trade back, possibly in round 2. That's where they usually do their trading back, but surprising to say the least, they didn't make any trades. They stuck to their boards and they just drafted their 6 players, and it's quite surprising, to be honest with you. I thought they were going to trade back, gather more picks so they can get more players, but like I said before, it takes 2 to tango. So I don't know if they're trying to make a trade to the other team and the team just didn't see the value in it. I don't know, but they stuck to the board and they just selected 6 players, and no problem with that, because all the 6 players that the Bengals have drafted, I feel like are going to make immediate impact, especially for this season, for this team. The rookies are going to contribute very, very much so, to say the least, for this season. I see literally each pick in this year's draft to make some kind of contribution for this year. So, they're very exciting, and I love the picks. So, let's dive in more to that. And also a bit surprised that they double dipped when it came to the linebacker spot. They double dipped at O-line, and I was actually very happy with that. I wasn't surprised that they double dipped at that spot, because of the need at guard and just the overall depth of the offensive line. But when it came to a linebacker, I thought after that they draft Demetrius, that okay, they're gonna stop from there. They found their replacement for Jermaine Pratt, and it's all said and done, and they're just going to draft one linebacker. But they shocked me on day 3, going off of round 4, taking Barrett Carter from Clemson. And guys, this has nothing to do with Barrett. I love him. I wanted the Bengals to draft him. If they didn't get Jahad Campbell or other of the top linebackers. Barrett Carter, to me, is extremely athletic, extremely smart, a leader amongst men, and I loved him as a prospect. I just didn't think they'll double dip at linebacker and getting him with the first pick on day 3. So that was a bit surprising, but like I said, no knock on him. I'm happy that Bengals got him as well, and this linebacker room is definitely gonna be a change, to say the least, with Jermaine Pratt departing and bringing on board 2 rookies in Demetrius Knight Jr. and Barrett Carter. So I think those 2 rookies right away are gonna make a big impact for this Bengals defense that so desperately needs that to happen. And I'm excited to see that, to tell you the truth. So sky's the limit for those 2 linebackers. And we're gonna take a little dive into each of the 6 picks that the Bengals selected, and that's starting with round 1, 17th pick, defensive end Shemar Stewart from Texas A&M. Now, if you guys watched my previous video of my reaction, I was a bit surprised, to say the least. There was a lot of players that were still on the board that I thought Bengals would have targeted, but Shemar Stewart on to them was their best player on their board, and no knock on them. Shemar Stewart is an extreme athletic freak. He has all the potential, and his ceiling, it's endless. But I just hope, and I also believe that this Bengals defensive staff can bring out the best in Shemar. And despite him getting 1.5 sacks in last season, and I know that's a concern for you Bengal fans seeing that number. But to my honest and humble opinion, sacks is kind of overrated. I look at like other stuff like pressures, and he had 39 last season, and that's a ton. And Jerry Montgomery, Al Golden, and them boys, they just need to find a way to convert them pressures into sacks, and having Shamar finish the job and not also pressuring, just making those splash plays that this defense really needs. So time will tell when it comes to Shamar Stewart, but I'm personally really high on him. And at first my live reaction was kind of caught off guard. In the back of my mind, I kind of felt like they're gonna do it, but at the same time, I was like, there's still Jahad Campbell, Malachi Starks, everybody, Derek Harmon. But the more I thought about it and the draft, went along, I really like this pick, and I'm excited for Shamar Stewart, and I can't wait to see what he does when he plays alongside Trey Hendrickson. So, time will tell with this upcoming season, but like I said, I'm really high on Shamar Stewart. Moving on to round 2, the Bengals selected with the 49th pick Demetrius Knight Jr., linebacker out of South Carolina. And again, this one to me was a little bit kind of a stunner. Bengals typically kind of do this in round 2, where they pick somebody that you kind of wasn't expecting. Bengal fans, I think y'all know what I'm talking about, aka Drew Sample. And no knock on him, I love Drew Sample, but maybe he could have been drafted a little bit later. But when it comes to Demetrius Knight, do I feel like he could have possibly got selected more into the back of round 2 if Bengals possibly made a trade and move back a few picks and get more picks? Sure, yeah. But when it's all said and done, it happened. Bengals stuck to their board, they kept pat, and they selected Demetrius with that 49th overall pick. Now, again, this is no knock on the player. I love Demetrius Knight. To me, he was the 3rd best linebacker coming out of this class. So I was extremely happy that Demetrius got drafted. I just didn't expect that he was gonna be drafted at number 49. Maybe if he traded back to say 57, get more picks and get him, I'm all on board with that. But just a bit surprising to say the least, that he was the pick, and Bengals just stood pat and got him. But hey, like I said, no knock on Demetrius. I love him as a player, as a person. He's great, and he's just a perfect piece for what Al Golden is looking for this Bengals defense. And I just feel like he's a grade A, just overall as a human being, just a great guy. So I'm really happy with that pick. And he's someone that is athletic, intelligent, just a natural leader, and that's someone that the Bengals desperately need if they want to improve this year when it's all said and done. So like I said, I love Shamar Stewart's pick, and I love Demetrius Knight. Call me a bit optimistic, but I love that pick. And then moving along to round 3, with pick number 81, Bengals selected guard out of Georgia, Dylan Fairchild. Now this one to me, I was so happy, because before the pick was happening, I was just thinking in my head, just please get a guard, please get a guard. And it's, even though it's not the other Georgia guard that all Bengals fans wanted, including me, in Tate Ratledge, we got the guy on the opposite side, left guard, Dylan Fairchild, and he was someone I was looking at too, but I was just looking at Tate more. And when it comes to Dylan, he's one of the best pass blockers in this draft, and he has familiarity with our offensive line coach Scott Peters in handwork and all that kind of stuff. So it made perfect sense as to why Bengals were targeting him specifically in the 3rd round. So I am happy with the pick. We needed offensive line help, because you and I both know that the Bengals' Achilles heel is blocking for Joe. So I'm just glad that they finally drafted somebody in the 3rd round, and they took Dylan Fairchild. I personally think he's a perfect fit when it comes to this Bengals offense, and I think he's gonna just come in day one and start at left guard, between Ted Karras and Orlando Brown Jr. I feel like he's gonna just fit in right away, and he's gonna be really good. I just have that inkling in my stomach that he's gonna be really good for this Bengals team, and he's gonna make an impact, and hopefully that left side is just in good hands. When you got Orlando Brown, Dylan Fairchild, and Ted Karras, hopefully that left side is locked up, and you don't have to worry about Joe getting hit from that side, or having to face pressure from that side. Of course he's gonna face pressure. It happens, but I just don't want to worry about that side, and I feel like with that Dylan pick, Joe's in good hands, and I'm extremely high on Dylan Fairchild. So we'll see when it comes to this season, but my prediction is he starts right away. Dan Pitcher clearly loves him, and he stated that it's his job to lose. So when it's all said and done, he's gonna be the starting left guard for the 2025 Bengals, and I, without a doubt, think he's gonna have a big year this year, even as a rookie. I feel like he's gonna have his errors. We're all human. He's gonna make mistakes. Sure, he's probably gonna let a few sacks happen, but I just think he's gonna make an immediate impact for this offense, and so I'm happy with the Dylan Fairchild pick. Moving along to round 4, that's when they double dipped at linebacker. They took Clemson, Barrett, Carter. Extremely athletic, just like Demetrius Knight. Sideline to sideline range, a lot of sacks, good in coverage. He's just an overall type of linebacker that you would want for your defense, and like I stated earlier in this video, I love the pick. I was a bit shocked that they double dipped at that position, but I love that pick, and I loved him. He was high on my board. I had him as the 4th best linebacker in this draft. So to come out with the 3rd and 4th best linebacker, you can't complain. So it was a really good pick for the Bengals, and I am happy with that pick. And I feel like if he's not starting, because I feel like Logan and Demetrius are just the locked-in starters. If not starting, he's going to have a lot of reps, like playing the King Davis Gaither role, where he's going to come in, fill in, play some snaps here and there, especially for special teams and 3rd down packages and whatnot. So I feel like he can make an immediate impact right away as a rookie. So I love that pick, and his linebacker room is looking really good as of right now. So I have 6 locks when it comes to his linebackers, and then Logan Wilson, Demetrius Knight Jr., Barrett Carter, John Meta, Shaka Hayward, and am I missing somebody? Yeah, I don't know, but I just feel like those guys. Oh, and Oren Burks. I'm so sorry, Oren. Oren Burks, free agent out of Eagles. So those 6 linebackers, to me, I feel like those guys are locked. So the linebacker room is looking really good, and I am a bit surprised that Jermaine's still on the team, to be honest. I don't know if they're going to make a farewell video. I don't know if that's what the hold-up is, but when it's all said and done, I see Jermaine being cut, yesterday. But we'll see. But, I'm really high on this linebacker room. I really love the depth now when it comes to this year. And now moving along to round 5, pick 153, they took Miami guard / tackle Jalen Rivers, and this pick, I was just so thrilled when I seen it. I was just so happy that he double dipped, because honestly I thought Bengals were gonna be conservative and just take one offensive lineman, but thank God they didn't. They double dipped at that position, and they took versatile Jalen Rivers. He has a lot of experience starting at tackle and starting at guard, mainly on the left side, if not all but on the left side. So I'm really curious to see what Scott Peters and the offensive staff wants to do with him. The media asked him, where do you see yourself playing, and Jalen told the reporters that they told me that I want to play guard. So I'm really curious to see what's the plan. I posted earlier on my X that I wouldn't mind the lineup of Orlando Brown, Dylan Fairchild, Ted Karras, Jalen Rivers and Amarius Mims. That would be, if not the best lineman that Joe has ever had in his Bengals career. So I would love that possibility, but I don't know if maybe they're not gonna move him to right guard. I don't know what the plan is, but that would to me make the most sense, because Dylan Fairchild strictly just played left side, so don't move him. But then with Jalen Rivers, I feel like he's more versatile, and maybe Scott Peters sees that and would wanna try to move him to the right side of the line and possibly start at right guard. And to me, that's really exciting when you got two new faces at guards replacing Kappa and Vosen. And sky's the limit for these guys. I feel like that was a steal for Jalen Rivers. I thought he was gonna go somewhere around round 4, but we got him, and I was so ecstatic when Bengals got him in the 5th round. So hell of a pick in my opinion. We got Jalen Rivers, and like I said, I feel like he's gonna make an impact too, because injuries happen. And if he's not starting, he could possibly come in, fill in right away, and he could also be even a swing tackle, the third tackle and first tackle coming off the bench. So I see him, playing a lot of snaps this year, whether it's due to injury or he just won a spot on that line. So really high on Jalen Rivers when it comes to that part. And last but certainly not least, in the 6th round, pick 193, Bengals took Taj Brooks, running back out of Texas Tech. Now, to be honest with you, I didn't really, look into the running back class as much as I should, just because the class is just so deep that I had a feeling Bengals are gonna go with one of the ones in the later rounds. So I didn't really look at every running back. So, when I seen Taj Brooks highlights, I was just in love. He's like a bowling ball. He's like a Mighty Mouse. He reminds me a lot of like a J.K. Dobbins kind of vibe. That's what I'm getting. And watching his highlights, he's just incredible. He had over 1,500 rushing yards and 17 touchdowns this past year, and then that's really impressive. And I like how he runs. He runs really aggressive. Like, his hair is on fire, and he doesn't like to be tackled. He would try his best to always break his first tackle. That's what he said. He tries not to get tackled by the first guy. I just love the way he runs. He just, no dancing, just a straight shooter, and up the hole, and a real violent runner. And I love that about Taj Brooks, and I love that pick. So overall, looking at this draft, 6 picks, call me optimistic or just always being positive, but I really love this draft. It was a really solid draft, in my opinion. In my personal opinion, this draft reminds me a lot of the 2020 draft when Bengals took Joe Burrow. Just high character leaders and just real A+ human beings. And I feel like they went with that approach again, like as they did in 2020. So with those 6 picks, you see them. They love football, great character guys, leaders, people that just want to learn. They love the game, and it was a really good draft for the Bengals. You're gonna have Bengal fans complaining like, oh, why didn't they take a safety, or why didn't they take this guard, or why didn't they address defensive tackle? And Bengal fans, I hear you, but you only have so many picks, and if the value's not there, you just gotta go BPA, and that's what they did. So can't knock them for that. And like I said, just give it time, see what these 6 players can do for the this upcoming year, and just give them a chance and see if they can shine or not. But like I said, I feel like all 6 of these guys can right away make an impact for this team. And to be honest, it's kind of a hot take, but I wouldn't be surprised if Taj Brooks ends up being RB2. He's like the perfect complementary for Chase Brown, and that'll be a duel, Chase Brown and Taj Brooks. So I would not be surprised come after preseason, when it's all said and done, that Taj Brooks wins RB2 and he's Chase Brown's backup, and he plays a lot of snaps. So I would not be surprised one bit. So overall, this I would give a grade of like a solid B. Could they have done things, draft different players? Sure, but I'm not complaining. I love each and every guy that the Bengals drafted, and I'm glad that they went kind of back to their roots that made them, go to Super Bowls and AFC Championship games, and that was finding players that just, great character guys and just love the game and just are natural leaders on and off the field. So I'm glad that they went, back into that route and seeing that is what worked for them rather than taking gambles or taking risk with players that maybe had like off the field kind of stuff or character traits like Jermaine Burton from last year. But I'm still high on Burton, but I'm just glad that like I said, that they're going back to their roots of drafting high quality type of players. And speaking to that, when it comes to the draft, my favorite pick in this draft might shock you guys, but that's Demetrius Knight Jr. And I kind of have a personal reason as to why he's my favorite pick, and that's because on the field first, I love Demetrius Knight. He's aggressive, he's a leader, just athletic. He's a do-it-all type of linebacker. So that's just half of why he's my favorite draft pick. But also, off the field, human speak, I can relate to the guy. He got married and he has kids at the age of 24, and in my lifetime, that's when I was 24. That's when I got married. That's when I had my son. And at such a young age, there comes a point where you have to man up, or you're gonna fall on your face. And once I seen my son for the first time in my life, I just never looked back, and I told myself from this day forward that I was gonna man up, and I'm gonna be a changed man, and I'm gonna do everything that I can possibly do for this family, for the better. And I never looked back, and that's what I see with Demetrius Knight. Just a hard worker, on and off the field. He said he was also working while going to college, and I just give him props, because as a man, that's what you have to do. Support your family, and I just really took that to heart, and that's why I love the Demetrius Knight pick, is because no offense to the other men, I'm happy that we got him, but when it comes to Demetrius, it's just another level. Like, you drafted a man, you know what I mean? He's 24 years old, but he has his priorities straight. He has a wife, he has kids, he knows what it takes to fight in this world, and what to do in real life situations, and just knowing how to survive in life. And so that's what I loved about this pick, and that's what I love about him as a player, but even more as a person. So to me, that's my explanation as to why Demetrius Knight Jr. is my favorite pick in this draft. And I'm just so excited for him, and I can't wait to see what his future holds for this Bengals defense. I'm just really excited to see how it all works out, and I have no doubt that Demetrius Knight is going to make a huge impact for this team, and him and Logan Wilson is going to be one dynamic duo, and I'm going to love watching them play on Sundays. So he's my favorite pick in that draft. And last part of my video that I basically wanted to say is what's next for the Bengals, and what possible moves could the Bengals make. And now, in my opinion, there's a couple of things that should happen, but it probably won't happen, just because I feel like the Bengals are settled with what they have as of right now. But to me, you can upgrade, and it makes just too much sense for it to happen. So that's why I think it's not going to happen, because that's how it usually happens when it comes to Bengals stuff. But the first thing that I would do is bring Justin Simmons in for a visit, the safety. I feel like he's in it. No offense to Geno Stone, but I feel like Justin Simmons is a clear upgrade over Geno Stone, and he's like the perfect guy that would be perfect for Al Golden's defense. A leader, and just he knows what offense does, and he can just read the field so very well, and he's like the perfect safety to just be in the backfield and just diagnose and change plays. And I would love to have Justin Simmons, to be honest. You can cut Geno Stone, and with that money you can sign him, but I don't think that's happening. I'll be surprised, to tell you the truth, if Bengals sign Justin Simmons, but that's just something that I would do. And with the offensive side of the ball, I know I said Dylan Fairchild is probably a lock at left guard and right guard. I don't know if Jalen Rivers is going to move there or there's going to be a competition, but to me, if you're trying to win now, your Super Bowl windows now, I would just go after Brandon Scherff. Like, it just makes too much sense for Bengals to sign Brandon Scherff. He would come along, he would be the plug-and-play starter at right guard, and without question, this will be the best line that Joe Burrow has ever had. And it just makes too much sense. Brandon is at the ending point of his career where he's still performing at a really high level, and he didn't win a ring yet. He would probably want to chase a ring and go play for a contender. So it makes too much sense for him to sign with the Bengals and the Bengals to be interested to sign him. But like I said, I don't see the Bengals signing him. I think they're just fine with where they're at when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. And it's kind of disappointing, to tell you the truth. It just makes too much sense for that to happen, but I don't see the Bengals looking at Brandon for the time being, and I think they're gonna just stick to what they have in that room. And like I said, Brandon would be a plug-and-play starter at right guard, and he would solidify that right side of the line when you have Amarius Mims at right tackle, Brandon Scherff at right guard. Sky's the limit for the offense. They'll probably be putting up 50 plus on everybody's head, but I truly believe Bengals don't see it that way, and they see like they like what they have. So have a competition of maybe Cody Ford and Jalen Rivers, Lucas Patrick battling out. So we'll see. But those two guys specifically that I mentioned, to me, would be something that I would do if I was Bengals GM, but I'm not. So that's why I don't think it's gonna happen. But if you used to ask me today, what future moves would you do for this team? Those two players come to mind: Justin Simmons and Brandon Scherff. And you'll be cutting Jermaine Pratt. You're gonna be cutting Geno Stone if you used to sign Simmons, and you possibly be cutting Cordell Wilson if you sign Scherff. So you guys have the money to do it, and it makes sense. But like I said, I don't see that happening. But if it were, I'll be shocked, but in a real ecstatic way. Like, I can't believe Bengals did this. So time will tell. We'll see what they do. And that's it for my latest episode. So Bengal fans, can you guys please drop a comment and tell me who your guys' favorite pick is in this draft, whether it's Shamar Stewart all the way down to Taj Brooks. Please comment in this video and tell me, guys, who's your favorite player that the Bengals selected in this year's draft. But that about do it in today's episode. And guys, please, again, if you guys like my content, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel, Bengals at Paradise. Thank you guys, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hooray.